So, over winter break, I got sick and binged a bunch of Ghibli movies. I'd always been a fan of the art, the messages, and the overall world building each of the movies had, but oddly enough, never really watched any of them. I realized during the binge that I had actually watched a singular Ghibli movie when I was like 7, which was my first anime movie ever if I remember correctly. I'll explain more about which movie that was as the video goes on, but spoiler, I don't think it's the one you're thinking it is. This idea to rank the Ghibli movies as I watched them came around day 4 of my binge, and started off as a best to worst list. But for this video, I decided to take a tier list format so that you can kind of see which movies I would say are like instant classics, and maybe which movies you should avoid, and the general overall, if you've never seen a Ghibli movie before, what movies I recommend for you to watch if you're jumping into this kind of how I was when I was sick. I debated whether I would present these in alphabetical order, maybe even release date order, like oldest to youngest, but then I decided I might as well introduce each movie based on the order I watched them in. I will be upfront and acknowledge that most of these rankings were done when I was really going through it, and while a couple of them I tweaked, this is mostly just sharing how I interpreted each movie in my sick haze, so fair warning, as the sickness got worse, my enjoyment for some of these movies lessened. But I'm going to try my best to share more of a well-rounded reasoning than just, oh, I was sick, therefore it sucked. So without further ado, here are my Ghibli rankings. My Neighbor Totoro from 1988 was the first movie that I watched in my Studio Ghibli binge. It is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, a name you've probably heard before if you know anything about Studio Ghibli, and produced by Toru Hara. I would also like to make a note that there are a lot of Japanese names, and I'm probably going to mispronounce some of them, so please bear with me. The story follows 2 girls, Satsuke and Mei, who move to the countryside with their father to be closer to their mother that's in the hospital. While exploring their new home, they encounter the spirits that live there, notably Totoro. I think My Neighbor Totoro is the most iconic film to come from the Studio Ghibli filmography. I mean, Totoro is literally in their logo, so it makes sense if the first thing you think of when you think of Studio Ghibli is this movie, and honestly, I don't think it's a bad choice. There is a lot to it that kind of embodies everything that you would think of for a Studio Ghibli film. I think one of the reasons why this movie succeeds is because you can tell it comes from a place that's very personal to Miyazaki. I actually read somewhere that some of this movie takes inspiration from his own childhood, where Miyazaki actually had to move to the countryside because his mom had tuberculosis so that she could breathe cleaner air. And I think that also connects to why there are so many spirits, such as the soot sprites that you see, and Totoro himself, and the little Totoro guys that they have, and Cat Bus. All of these little spirits represent childhood innocence, and one of the things that is most charming is the reason why Totoro is called Totoro is actually because it's a play on words, where Mei mispronounces the Japanese word for troll. I think another reason why it's so whimsical and there's so much heart behind it is because one of the key points in the film is that the spirits only show themselves or are only able to be seen by kids. This movie features some of the themes that Studio Ghibli is known for. It talks a lot about nature and kind of respecting nature, but also Shintoism regarding like the spirits. And one of the reasons why I love Studio Ghibli is because they make sure to connect back to the fact that they are from Japan and showing all of this to people that may understand it, may not understand it. I would say my personal thoughts on this film are that it's just an all-around feel-good movie. This film has some of my favorite music out of the entire filmography of Studio Ghibli. It's just so iconic, and the music just kind of transports you, and it's just so peaceful. It is such a great movie to put on in the background if you don't know what to watch or you want to raise your spirits. That's why I would say it's solidly an A tier. I wouldn't say it's the best Studio Ghibli movie, but that's why I would say it's the most iconic, is If you're ever going into Studio Ghibli and this is your first time watching a Studio Ghibli film, I would say this is not a bad movie to start on. Anyone can easily watch this film, but I would say My Neighbor Totoro is an A tier. Kiki's Delivery Service from 1989 is adapted from the children's fantasy novel written by Eiko Kodono. The screenplay was written, directed, and produced by Hayao Miyazaki. The film follows a young 13-year-old witch, Kiki, who moves away from her family with her talking cat, Gigi, to follow the tradition of witches learning their skill. Settling into a seaside town, she starts up a flying delivery service out of a bakery she's staying in. This film has more of a European backdrop compared to My Neighbor Totoro. The previous film is more rural Japan. I would say this film is kind of like a coming of age, where Kiki is trying to discover herself, trying to figure out who she is as a witch, also growing in confidence. So some of the themes are finding yourself and learning to be who you are, which I always think is a great theme, especially in a kids movie. My thoughts are that I thought the kids are actually really annoying. I mean, I loved the painter lady, I forget what her name is, and the baker, or the baker's husband. He was great. I thought he was so much fun, and the fact that he made the little delivery service wreath for Kiki was so cute. And yeah, he's just such a sweetheart. So I think the adults were really what made me like the film. I also just love magic and stuff that's in that vein. Studio Ghibli really understands how to do magic well, for the most part. We'll get into some other films that I think they don't do well, but for this film, I think they did a really good job of showcasing magic. So I would say that this film is solidly an A tier as well. Maybe just a little bit above My Neighbor Totoro, because, oh my gosh, it's just so whimsical, and I find myself wanting to go back to that movie more so. They're like right next to each other up in A tier, but both of them are feel-good movies, and I think both of them are really good starters. Ponyo from 2008 was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Toshio Suzuki. It's about a magical goldfish that is found by a little boy named Sosuke. Their friendship causes Sosuke's port town to be flooded as the goldfish, who is now turned into a little girl named Ponyo, is being tracked down by her father. Miyazaki said that he took some inspiration from Hans Christian Andersen, so it is loosely inspired by The Little Mermaid. This film features themes of nature, a lot of themes of nature. I mean, if your town is getting flooded, and it's also a really beautiful coming-of-age film. It's one of those films that I think is just really cute. A lot of my friends that haven't really watched any Studio Ghibli movies have often told me that Ponyo was the first film that they watched. I don't know if that's a typical thing out here in the West, but a lot of people have told me that they've seen Ponyo and they didn't know that it was a Studio Ghibli film. Overall, the art is so amazing in this film. I mean, I just love animated oceans and that kind of thing. If I could pick a Studio Ghibli film to live in, this would be the film that I would want to live in, because it's so beautiful and every single one of the characters is so lovable. I love the old ladies in particular. They are a hoot. And Sosuke's mom, oh my gosh, I love Sosuke's mom. She is such a strong, independent mom, because her husband is just always away and is a sailor. And Ponyo's mom is so beautiful. I mean, wow. And the ramen scene is so iconic. Like, that ramen looks so tasty, and I think that's one of the big things that is in every Studio Ghibli film, is that Miyazaki or whoever is directing and drawing these frames knows exactly how to make food look so tasty. I would say that this film also belongs in A tier, just below My Neighbor Totoro, because it's not the best Studio Ghibli movie, but it's still really good. I feel like a lot of people come away from this film positively for the most part. Overall, the film takes you on an adventure that is just so great, and I love it so much. So I would say this belongs solidly in A tier. Princess Mononoke from 1997 is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Toshio Suzuki. The story is about a young prince, Ashitaka, who is infected when he takes down an animal heading for his village. On his journey to find a cure, he encounters San, a girl raised by wolves, and Lady Iboshi, the leader of Irontown as they wage war against each other. Now, a lot of Studio Ghibli films have strong themes of anti-war. This one especially is very strongly anti-war. There's themes of nature, like respecting nature. Coexistence, I think, is the biggest thing out of this film. And when people write essays and talk extensively about how Miyazaki knows how to write women, this is the perfect example of it. Princess Mononoke has some of the best depictions of strong female characters in almost any anime or animated film or movie that I've ever seen. They're so well written. There's so much to San, who is on the side of nature, and there's so much to Lady Eboshi, who is on the side of imperialism and expansion to some degree. The reason why they're so well written is because both of these women have a very clear goal in mind, and both of them are very strong and very great leaders in the way that they do it. It's just such a beautiful film. It is a more mature film. I think it's the only one that has a PG-13 rating, but it's for good reason. I would say that this film is definitely not for children. This is for people that you really need to think. It is one of those movies you watch and then you need to digest. This is one of my favorite films, and you do need to have some sort of media literacy to watch this film, and I think it does it perfectly. I also love the little spirit guys. Oh my gosh, I would love to have those guys hanging out in the tree above my home. That'd be so cool. This movie belongs in S tier. The pacing is phenomenal. It is great. The message behind it, one of the best messages. And I also love that there's not really a clear cut, yes, this person is good 100% of the time and the other person is bad 100% of the time. It is so well written, and that's why it belongs in S tier. Spirited Away from 2001 is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Toshio Suzuki. On the drive to her new home, a girl, Chihiro, and her parents discover what looks to be an abandoned amusement park. As the sun sets, Chihiro finds herself in a world with spirits, where she must work at a bathhouse while trying to free herself and rescue her parents. This film, out of the films that are not related to war, this one has one of the most jarring plots to it. The magical elements in this one are phenomenal. I love the witches, they're great. And you have a lot of yokai and kami from Japanese mythology, and it just adds so much depth and richness to the world. Like, you have No Face, who's this greed spirit, and I think whenever people think of Spirited Away, they think of No Face. There's so much more to the film than just No Face. I've seen so many essays about what Spirited Away is actually about, which I will not be getting into. You can find them yourself if you truly want to, but overall, like, it's a great movie. It's well-rounded. It's kind of like a coming of age in a sense where Chihiro has to learn to be confident and grow into herself, and she kind of has to take responsibility, which is kind of crazy for a child that's in a bathhouse. And, you know, with all the spirits, there's a lot of like touches on like Shintoism, so there's just a lot of spiritual aspects. This is one of my favorite films. I love all things involving spirits and the like, and the flower scene, oh my gosh, the visuals are so good. And Haku, bro, it just, the visuals are so stunning in this film. Every single Ghibli film has really good visuals, but I think this one really takes the cake. I will say I watched all of these films in English dub, so don't come for me, I was sick, okay? I will rewatch all of them sub, but I thought Chihiro's voice sounded familiar, and I kind of thought it was like a little bit annoying, and then I realized that she is the same voice actress that voices Lilo, so that's crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, Lilo. If I had to give this a rating, this definitely belongs in S tier. It is such a good movie. The pacing is great. There are already so many breakdowns of the movie already, like I said, but I love all of the fantasy elements. Love fantasy. And again, the visuals are just mwah, chef's kiss. So that's why I think it belongs in S tier. Castle in the Sky from 1986 is the first official film in the Studio Ghibli filmography. It is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Isao Takahata. When Pazu, a boy from a small mining town, sees a girl, Shita, falling from the sky with a glowing pendant, he is set on an adventure to find Laputa, a floating city, while the pair get into hijinks with the military and pirates. This is where you really get to see Miyazaki's love for planes and flying things. This is the movie, and like I said, it's the first film in the Ghibli catalog. There's another film that comes before it that I'll talk about, but this is the first official film. This movie kind of has an anti-war theme to it, with, like I said earlier, the military and pirates constantly chasing down Pazu and Shita, and the reason why they want to get a hold of the city is because they want to have either the military capabilities or all of the riches from the city, and so there is kind of an anti-war theme, more like a live and let live mentality to it. I would say that also kind of connects to like somewhat of a nature theme, where the idea is just leave it alone. Can't people just appreciate the beauty of something and just, accept something is there? Okay, this might get me flamed, but when I first watched it, I low-key thought it was boring. My sickness was at its peak, and I kind of thought I hallucinated half of it. I don't think I finished it all in one go as well. So it was really, really rough when I first watched it. But after going through other films, I ended up changing how I felt about it a little bit. I would say this movie belongs in A tier. I originally wanted to put it in B tier, but after really brewing and thinking about it, it belongs in A tier. There are key aspects to it that I thought were a little bit meh. Some of the pacing was a little bit interesting to me, but there are so many moments in the film that are amazing. And I love the Sky Pirates. The Sky Pirates were a great vibe. Like, they were my favorite part of the film. So I think this belongs in A tier because it has a well-rounded story, and you can tell that they put a lot of heart into it. Howl's Moving Castle from 2004 is adapted from the novel of the same name by Diana Wynne Jones. The screenplay was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and was produced by Toshio Suzuki. The film follows Sophie, a woman working in the hat shop, who is cursed after crossing paths with a wizard named Howl. In search of a cure, she befriends Howl's companions and takes up the mantle of being the cleaning lady in his walking castle, all while a war is brewing on the horizon. So, already, theme of anti-war. It's not as on the forefront. You kind of have to actually watch the movie and listen to all of the background dialogue going on and kind of catch the clues, but there is a war brewing in the film. I would say, this film is also about finding confidence in yourself. Part of the reason why Sophie was cursed and the curse lasted for so long was because she just was not this confident young woman. She was very shy, and you can see her grow into herself as the movie goes on. And I think that's kind of inspirational for people that want to watch the film that way, but I think most people are watching it for the visuals or Christian Bale. Gotta love Christian Bale. My thoughts are the visuals, particularly Howl's bedroom, were so beautiful, but here's where my rant comes in. Sophie just confused me so much. She's supposed to be young, and then when she becomes old or is cursed to be old, she starts to act her age, and you're 18, or however old she's supposed to be. Why are you acting like a 70-year-old woman because you look like a 70-year-old woman? Wouldn't you want to still have the qualities that you had before you became cursed? She just makes me upset in a lot of ways. And oh my gosh, I could go on and on about her and Turnip Head. Turnip Head, best character, in my humble opinion. The movie was great, and then I feel like it just flopped in the last 10 minutes, and maybe I was just super duper annoyed because I was sick, but I'm gonna have to put this movie in B tier just because it was so good, and then it kind of falls apart at the end. Also, for it being called Howl's Moving Castle, there's barely any Howl. That could also just be me. That could just be a hot take, but I digress. B tier, it's not a bad movie. B tier still means it's a great movie. The Secret World of Arrietty from 2010 is adapted from the novel The Borrowers by Mary Norton. The film's screenplay is written by Hayao Miyazaki and Keiko Niwa. It is directed by Hiromasa Yonebayashi and produced by Toshio Suzuki. It follows a family of tiny people called borrowers that live beneath a house outside of view from humans. However, when the adventurous Arrietty is discovered and befriends a human boy, Sho, her family is forced to abandon their quiet lives. I think what is most charming about this film is Sho kind of represents what I would imagine how people would act if they ever made a discovery of this magnitude. He is so kind and just curious about Arrietty and who she is, and it kind of reminds me of those Disney fairies films, if anybody remembers those. Sho is just a chill guy, and I really do feel for him since the whole reason why he's out there is because he has a condition. This movie kind of leans into the nature elements, and I don't know if I would call it a coming of age. I guess it kind of is because Arrietty is trying to figure herself out. She's a little bit rebellious, she's a little bit like, I just want to explore, and overall, it's whimsical, kind of. But my personal thoughts, I really wanted to like this one. I really did. And it just feels like it's missing something that most Ghibli films have. The story doesn't really feel incomplete, it's just missing that Ghibli spark. And for that, I'm gonna have to put it in C tier. It's just bland compared to other movies on this list, I fear. I mean, it could also be because I saw this trailer so much as a kid, and I may have overhyped the film in my mind, but I think that's why it belongs in C tier. Whisper of the Heart from 1996 is adapted from the manga by Aoi Hiragi and is written by Hayao Miyazaki, directed by Yoshifumi Kondo, and produced by Toshio Suzuki. The story is about a girl, Shizuku, who loves to read and discovers all the books she checks out were previously taken out by someone named Seiji Amasawa. When she learns Seiji is one of her peers, they both challenge each other to follow their dreams. This film is so beautiful. The theme is about coming of age and wanting to live up to your dreams, and kind of like I said before, where Shizuku really wants to be a writer and Seiji really wants to be a violin maker. And I deeply appreciate that even though there's kind of this love element between them, they both want to be better for themselves. I instantly fell in love with this film and its characters. There wasn't a single person in this film that annoyed me, and I could see myself in both Seiji and Shizuku. They're so deeply relatable, and that's what I just love about this film. And there's these mystical elements that represent the creativity in Shizuku, and I love it so much. I am a huge fan of fantasy and magic and sci-fi, but what I love about this film is it feels so realistic in a very hopeful way, and it's just amazing. I especially loved the urban setting for this movie. It was super appealing to me, and I loved how it showed that even though there was so much going on in their lives and so full of expectations, there is still ways for you to make room for being who you are and being yourself. The antique store was something that I really loved as well. It's so full of character, and the Baron was so cool, and all of the little trinkets and doodads. It's a place I could definitely see myself getting lost in, and I would be down to visit something like that. That's why I would put this in S tier. When you say instant classic, this is what it is. If you want a film that feels like a Ghibli film, this is what I would say a Ghibli film is, so that's why it belongs in S tier. From Up on Poppy Hill from 2011 is adapted from the manga by Tetsuro Sayama and illustrated by Chizuru Takahashi. The film is written by Hayao Miyazaki and Keiko Niwa, directed by Goro Miyazaki, Hayao Miyazaki's son, and produced by Toshio Suzuki. The film is about a high school girl, Umi, who befriends Shun, a member of the school's newspaper. Along with the help of their classmates, they band together to clean up the school's clubhouse, the Latin Quarter, from being torn down. This movie follows more of a community aspect where people are working together for a common goal to try to achieve something, and is a little bit of a coming of age as well, since both of these people are in high school and kind of discovering themselves. It has the charm that a Ghibli film should have, but it's kind of missing something to it. I mean, watching this movie, I honestly love the setting. The idea of a clubhouse and having a community like that is so cool. I would want to be a fly on the wall for this premise, or a fly in the Latin Quarter, I guess, because it's all dirty. There's something nice about a film that feels like it could happen when very clearly whatever is going on would never ever happen in real life. And I honestly admire that. But this movie unfortunately has to go in C tier, just because where Whisper of the Heart succeeds, this one fails. Fails hard. It has a special place in my heart, but the execution just isn't what it cracked up to be. When people think of Ghibli, this is not a Ghibli film, quite honestly. It's just not. So that's why I would put it in C tier. Porco Rosso from 1992 is adapted from a 15-page novel that Hayao Miyazaki wrote himself. The film is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Toshio Suzuki. It is about a former Italian World War I fighter pilot, Marco, who is a bounty hunter defending the Adriatic Sea from sky pirates. A mysterious curse caused him to have the appearance of an anthropomorphic pig, where he's now known as the infamous Porco Rosso. When he has a run-in with the American pilot leading the sky pirates, Porco Rosso teams up with his mechanic's granddaughter, Fio Piccolo, to rebuild his plane. This film has anti-war elements to it, which makes sense since Marco is a former World War fighter pilot, and also themes of teamwork and just resilience all around. I especially love the depiction of strong female characters in this film. Theo is fantastic. She is amazing, and I love the fact that she's breaking gender roles in this film. Porco Rosso wants to have a mechanic, and lo and behold, it has to be a woman because all of Piccolo's people are all fighting the war, working on other things, so he only has women working for him, and he has his granddaughter, which I think is awesome. Props to Grandpa over here. And she also works as this foil to Porco Rosso to get him to open up a little bit more, and I love that. I felt like out of all of the war films, this was the most whimsical. I mean, you could argue that Princess Mononoke is whimsical because it's a fantasy setting, but I think this one has a lot more charm, and it's just so much lighter, a lot more digestible, I will say. The most digestible war film that Studio Ghibli has. I thought it was one of the more straightforward stories, where some of the other films, you kind of understand where it should go, but it doesn't really execute it that way. This film, I feel like, was very much so point A, point B, in the sense that you can predict how the ending is going to happen, where there's a clear bad guy and there's a clear hero, even though Porco Rosso is kind of, I wouldn't really say an anti-hero. He's not the clean-cut hero that you would see in a typical hero film. I would say this movie goes in B tier. It kind of reminds me of a One Piece episode, but this is also said by somebody who hasn't finished the East Blue arc, so, take that how you will. I just think it has a lot of character. It's still a really good film, so that's why I think it belongs in B tier. When Marnie Was There from 2014 is adapted from the novel of the same name by Joan G. Robinson. The screenplay is written by Masashi Ando, Keiko Niwa, and Hiromasa Yonebashi. It is also directed by Hiromasa Yonebashi and produced by Yoshiaki Nishimura. The story is about Anna, a shy girl staying with her relatives in a seaside town to improve her health, who discovers an abandoned mansion. Fascinated by it, she meets a mysterious girl who seems to live there, named Marnie. This film also is kind of like a coming of age. I feel like I've said a lot of these are a coming of age, but this one in particular is also about finding your confidence, similar to Spirited Away in a sense, where Anna is trying to grow out of herself and communicate more. It definitely has those otherworldly elements that Spirited Away has, in the sense that you're seeing something that may not be there or is in between worlds. But it's mostly about opening up and finding who you are. Overall, I thought it was good. I really liked the mystery aspect to it. I do typically like mysteries, but I don't know, I think when I want to watch a Ghibli film, I just don't really want to watch a mystery. But I applaud Ghibli for going out of their way to try something different, especially something that isn't spearheaded by Miyazaki or Takahata. I think it's really cool to see something from Ghibli that's other than them. However, I think this film belongs in B tier because it is a good rounded out movie, but it falls short in ways I can't quite put my finger on. And it could just be because my bias is I don't really see Ghibli doing mysteries, and this was a mystery. But overall, it's a rounded out movie. It's enjoyable. The Wind Rises from 2013 was adapted from the manga of the same name that Hayao Miyazaki wrote. It was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Toshio Suzuki. The film follows Jiro, a Japanese aeronautical engineer who has obsessed over planes his whole life, which leads him to being a key designer in the creation of a fighter aircraft as World War II brews. During this time, Jiro encounters Naoko and learns to balance his love for her and his love for aviation. This movie, oh my gosh, it is truly something else. I think for people that really are into just well-rounded cinema, if you like history, this is the perfect film for you. If you are trying to think of, hey, does animation actually hold up? I honestly feel if you like historical fiction, this is right up your alley. It is a beautiful anti-war film, and it really represents perseverance and trying to find a love for something when you feel like your love for that is being turned into something you don't want it to be. It's honestly really beautiful, like I said that before, but this film truly is something spectacular, and it was breathtaking in so many different ways. It shows off Miyazaki's love for planes, and there's just so much to do with aviation in this film. Overall, I thought this was the most peaceful of Studio Ghibli's war films. I think it's one of the only real love stories that has ever happened as well. There are a couple films that have a love story in them, but I feel like the love story is a pivotal part of this film, so that's why I included it in my synopsis. I would say this is definitely a slower paced movie compared to the other films, but I think it still definitely deserves to be an A tier. You have to have some media literacy and patience for it, but if you are willing to wait it out and just let the story play, it is so amazing and it's worth your time. So that was the initial run that I had for watching films. I decided to pick it back up after I felt a little bit better. So you can think of, I closed out the year being sick, then got better, kind of just hung out, and then the new year started and I was like, hey, let me continue this Ghibli binge and see how far I can go with it. And since we're at my little makeshift halfway point in this, even though it's over halfway, I'm just gonna talk about the bingo sheet that I made. I kind of started making a little bingo around when I started watching Whisper of the Heart, so pretty early on into my binge, but it's essentially a list of tropes I noticed in Ghibli movies, and I just kept adding to them as the movies went on, and it's very possible that I could have missed one, but I typed it up in my notes, and I checked them off as I went on, and I think part of me thought, if I'm actually dedicating all of my time, or I guess when I was sick, dedicating all of my time to doing something like this, then might as well just kind of keep track of all of the fun little quirks, and it honestly adds like another element to it. It was really fun to revisit it with my partner when we watched the films, especially Tales from Earthsea, which I will get to. it was just really funny to have a bingo, and if if you don't like something that's written on there, make your own bingo. It's your own. Like, I'm just showing what I did. I think it was just like I was so sick that I felt like I needed to do something. Like, my form of relaxation is still being insane and working on projects when I should be sleeping, but I digress. Okay, that was all. So, as this list continues, this was when I decided to pick back up the binge around New Year's. The Boy and the Heron from 2023, written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Toshio Suzuki, was the first film that I saw once I felt better. And the fact that I saw it in theaters is definitely going to date this list, but that was the first Ghibli film that I've seen in theaters. But the story is, after his mother's death, father's remarriage, and moving to a new town, Mahito is taunted by a strange heron that leads him into another world in search of his sick stepmother. I felt like the themes in this film kind of took a turn compared to other Ghibli films that were in the past. This one explored a lot more healing and finding their way. But out of all of the films that I've watched, none of them really had a healing aspect to them. This one I felt definitely was accepting the past or trying to overcome all your flaws and be okay with who you are. I don't know if I would say it's a coming of age. It sort of is in the way that Mahito learns to grow from his actions, but I'll get into that more. Maybe I'm just a little bit dense, but I was using all of my brain power to try to figure out what was going on. It felt like there was supposed to be a direction in mind, but it decided to use every single idea that it had on the board. It felt like this was a greatest hits movie, like a character being sick, the otherworldliness, and the piece that the dad is working on plane stuff. And there were these little guys that were kind of like the tree spirits from Princess Mononoke, and it felt like they just wanted to do that again with this film. I understand that it was different in the sense that the heron is kind of like a stork, or at least that's how I interpreted it, and the little spirits are supposed to be spirits going into the world, and it was just really confusing for me. There was so much to it that felt like it was hitting every little checkpoint that you would typically see in a Ghibli film and just trying to make it all into a cohesive plot. I thought that the birds were super interesting, and the idea of a world being run by birds would have been really cool. And that could just be me because I liked that little video game-esque album Bird World, and that was really cool. I mean, I understand kind of that it all ties back to Mahito, but the story could have been executed differently and still been interesting, but it just pulls in so many different directions without it having a clear path forward. And yes, you get to the end, yes, you've saved the day. And I think this was the first Ghibli film that I've watched where I didn't like the protagonist, and that says a lot. I feel like I can't really say that though, because again, he's a kid, and saying that a kid is unlikable is like, yeah, no doy, because it's a child. You know, a child is going to be annoying, and that's just how they are. But there were so many other Ghibli films where the kids weren't annoying and so much more likable. But Mahito, it felt like he was just instigating to instigate, and I get that he's going through a lot, and I could just be projecting because I feel like I've been in a place like his before. I've felt what he's felt before, but the way that he's acting out and then thinking it's okay to act out, it just does not compute in my little pea brain. For that myriad of reasons, I would say that this movie belongs in C tier. It's still a good movie, but like I said, it just feels like it's missing something. To connect this back to Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle is a notable work within the Studio Ghibli filmography, and a lot of people praise it a lot, and I said earlier that I didn't like the ending, and so the dissatisfaction that I felt at the end of that movie was like the entirety of this film. I was waiting for the spark that I felt for this film to happen. I would say it belongs in C tier. It definitely is nostalgia bait to the nth degree, and that's why it belongs in the nostalgia bait category. The Cat Returns from 2002 is adapted from the manga Bear and the Cat by Aoi Hiragi. The screenplay is written by Reiko Yoshida, directed by Hiroyuki Morita, and produced by Toshio Suzuki and Nozomu Takahashi. This is somewhat of a spiritual successor to Whisper of the Heart, but specifically the book Shizuku wrote. The plot is, when Haru rescues a cat from a truck, she learns he is the prince of the Cat Kingdom and is asked to marry him by the Cat King. Haru seeks the guidance of Baron at the Cat Bureau, and when she is whisked away to the Cat Kingdom, Baron must rescue her from the engagement and from turning into a cat herself. For this one, the theme was a little bit ambiguous to me. It might have been because I just wasn't fully locked in when I was watching this movie. I would say that the closest thing for this film's theme would be confidence, or finding your confidence and not being a pushover. I feel like she kind of made her intentions known, where she said she didn't want to marry a cat, but maybe the point of it is just to be a silly little goofy movie. I feel like something being made should have some sort of purpose behind it, right? And it just feels like it's existing to exist. And I don't want to put the author down that made this book, because I love Baron the Cat. I think he's a great character, and the fact that that got turned into a book is cool. I would have loved to see a Whisper of the Heart spiritual successor where the book is the movie. That would be interesting to me. This is kind of adjacent to Whisper of the Heart. It's essentially reusing a character that already exists and putting them into a different scenario. Like, you're transplanting a character poorly, that is good, into media that doesn't relate at all to the character. It feels like this movie is fan fiction of a book we never read. So, fun fact, this was my first ever Studio Ghibli film, and watching this, the plot came back to me in bits and pieces, but all that I really remembered when I was watching it was the part where Haru was half cat and she was dancing with Baron. I think that's where I stopped watching the film, because I believe I was watching this in a car with a friend. Yeah, so this was how I was introduced to Ghibli, which is crazy. Anyway, because the plot kind of just feels like, this feels like the kind of movie that people that don't watch anime think anime is. And for that reason, I have to put it in C tier, because it's just an okay movie. And I definitely overhyped this movie as a child. I was so excited to watch this movie again, especially knowing the lore that it's connected to Whisper of the Heart, because that is an S tier. I love Whisper of the Heart. And coming to this and finding out that it is just a meh movie, it's just really disappointing. So that's why it's in C tier, unfortunately. Tales from Earthsea from 2006 is adapted from the series Earthsea, or the Earthsea Cycle, by Ursula K. Le Guin, and manga Shuna's Journey by Hayao Miyazaki. This screenplay was written by Goro Miyazaki and Keiko Niwa, directed by Goro Miyazaki, and produced by Toshio Suzuki. It follows a prince with dark tendencies, Heron, who runs away from his kingdom and is mentored by a powerful mage named Sparrowhawk. They must join forces with Theru, a girl taken in by Sparrowhawk's friend, to defeat the Dark Wizard in search of immortality. I have so many feelings about this film. I'm gonna try to get through more about what the film is actually about, but the theme, I think, is supposed to be nature, maybe self-discovery, maybe acceptance, maybe it's about coming to terms with oneself and healing from a place of badness. I quite honestly don't know. And I've watched this movie, I think, 3 times, which is more than I think a lot of people that have watched this film can say that they've watched it. As I said earlier, I watched all of these films in dub, and there was an audio balancing issue with this whole movie. I don't know what it was, but Willem Dafoe's character was just always whispering, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was so annoying. And whenever I thought some part of the film was getting good, it just held on for just a minute longer than it needed to, or it was just way too short. I just could not follow the plot. I tried. I truly tried. Like I said, I've watched this 3 times, but I other thing is, like, why is there a dragon on the cover of the film if the dragon is not the focus of the film? It was mentioned at the beginning. Sparrowhawk was trying to tell Aaron, in the days of old, we had dragons. But then there was no dragons until the end of the film? This movie feels like if somebody said, yeah, I can give you the basic plot of every fantasy, and then they just spit this out without actually knowing anything about fantasy. Like, it's giving somebody was watching The Black Cauldron and listening to somebody try to read The Lord of the Rings at the same time. Like, there's nothing coherent about this film. Also, this is not a spoiler. The movie opens with Aaron murdering his father, okay? Prince Aaron murders the king. And yes, there's some point, I think, when he's like, oh no, I feel this darkness inside of me. But it's not given enough weight. You committed murder, boy. You killed your father. And you're just kind of like, oh yeah, that wasn't me. I get it, that wasn't you. But also, people that are really into fantasy, you understand that a magic system has to be in place to some degree. I felt like they kept moving the goalposts on where this magic system was. And that could have just been me kind of zoning out for half of the movie, but here's the thing. I have heard so many people say that this is a sucky film, and I've seen so many reviews about how this is the worst Ghibli film, and I went in being like, yo, I actually enjoy fantasy. Ghibli has done good fantasy films before, and how bad could it be? It's D tier. It's D tier. It's D tier. Sorry. The Tale of the Princess Kaguya from 2013 is adapted from Japanese folklore, The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. The film was written by Isao Takahata and Riko Sakaguchi, directed by Isao Takahata, and produced by Yoshiaki Nishimura. The story is, a bamboo cutter finds a little girl inside a bamboo shoot and raises her as his own with his wife. As she grows into a young woman, her beauty attracts suitors who compete for her hand in marriage. This film features a different art style from what is typical in the rest of the Studio Ghibli filmography, and I think they do a really good job of using the minimalist art that they have. It feels almost like watercolor, and it's so beautiful. It adds so much to the story. Again, this is adapted from Japanese folklore, so it takes a lot of messages that you could learn from. For instance, the difference between having a lot versus having a little, as in you may not come from a lot, but you can still be rich in life, versus having everything to your disposal and having barely anything meaningful in your life. This also connects with societal standards and oppression versus freedom. So a lot of Princess Kaguya explores what it's like to be oppressed by a society that wants you to appear in a certain way and finding freedom outside of that societal standard. It is so beautifully done. I absolutely loved watching this film after Tales from Earthsea. It was such a banger of a film, and the entire time, I did not look away. This was one of those Ghibli films that I was drawn in the entire time. I couldn't look away. Everything was so beautiful, and I just wanted to know what was going on the entire time. The story itself is amazing, and it almost feels nostalgic if you've ever heard of like an Aesop's Fable, or you were into fairy tales growing up. This has that feeling, and almost like there is a moral of the story, because there is. The moral of the story is be who you are, essentially. But the medium lends itself to more beauty and being able to tell its story in a way that I don't think a physical medium would be able to. Especially, like, this art style was done so much better, and I think it connects to the story so much more. Honestly, this movie belongs in S tier, because while it is a departure from Ghibli, it still has so much heart to it, and I think it's one of the best standalone films. This is one of those films where if you have watched a lot of Ghibli films and you're willing to watch an animated film that's very different from the rest of Ghibli's filmography in a good way, this is where you want to go. This is something that I would say somebody that has watched a lot of Ghibli should watch. This is a beautiful film. And even if you're not interested in Studio Ghibli, if you're not interested in Studio Ghibli at all, this is just a film that you should watch. And that's why it belongs in S tier. Only Yesterday from 1991 is adapted from the manga by Hotaru Okamoto and Yuko Tone. This screenplay was written and directed by Isayo Takahata and produced by Toshio Suzuki. It follows Teiko Okujima, a career woman from Tokyo who is reminded of her past when she travels to the countryside to work during the safflower harvest. While that is a super succinct summary of the entire film, I believe that captures the whole heart of this film. There's a lot about reconnecting with nature and feelings of nostalgia, almost as if it's a retrospective of a coming of age, where most of the movie is comprised of flashbacks. So while the present day is her as a woman working in the countryside who's always wanted to work in the countryside, a lot of the film takes place in flashbacks as she's a child in Tokyo that's longing for something else. I thought this movie was beautifully done, but sometimes the extended flashbacks made me a little bit confused about why they were happening. I think at first there was a clean cut why the flashback was happening, and then the flashback would go on for so long that when we returned back to the plot, I had no clue why she brought it up in the first place. While overall I thought the story was nice, I thought about putting it in A tier, but then thinking about it again, I don't really think it belongs there because it just doesn't have the same spark that the other Ghibli films on this list have, so I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. It's thoughtful, but the pacing is just a little bit too much all over the place for me, so this one belongs solidly in B tier. Again, it's a good film, but it's not at the same caliber as the other films that are in A tier and S tier. Pom Poko from 1994 is written and directed by Isayo Takahata and produced by Toshio Suzuki. The film is about a group of tanuki, Japanese raccoon dogs, who use their shape-shifting abilities to thwart off construction threatening to destroy their home. Again, while I feel like this synopsis is a bit short, I think that this hits the nail right on the head about what the film is about. This film really reminds you that this is a Japanese studio. A big key factor of this film is tanuki in Shintoism are shape-shifting spirits, and a lot of this film follows nature and modernization and how people modernizing not only affects habitats because you're cutting away so much living space for animals, but it also shows how these animals are forced to adapt to the modernization and becoming unhealthy and needing to be part of everything. The thing that annoyed me the most about this film was when every single time they kept saying "we raccoons" when they are tanuki. And I feel like that distinction is very important to make because raccoons, it's not the same thing as tanuki. I feel like this film has a goal in mind, but this honestly would do better as a slice of life than just a movie. It would be so cool to see this concept as maybe like a 12-episode anime. I would watch that. That sounds so interesting, especially because the tanuki are fighting with each other and trying to find dominance, and there are a lot of cuts through the tanuki's lifespan and showing how they're having kids, or they're trying to find food, or they're trying to adapt to human society. The visuals in this film were fantastic. It really goes to show that this is meant to be animated. I don't think a film like this could occur if it was adapted to CGI or real life. This is truly a great representation of why animation can be an effective medium for storytelling. It really shows off the shape-shifting capabilities that these tanuki have, and it makes it so much more charming, you know? I would say because it's a Ghibli film that has heart but isn't really in a full direction, this belongs in B tier. Again, it's a solid movie. I would say that this is one of my favorite films. Love going back to watch this just for fun. This film is a lot more digestible than the other films. Some of the films in this filmography are very hard-hitting, and this one is just a lot easier to go through. Again, it has a special place in my heart, and not saying that it's a bad movie. It's a fun movie, but it belongs in B tier. Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind from 1984 is adapted from the manga series written by Hayao Miyazaki. This film was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Isao Takahata. While this is not an official Ghibli film, a lot of people consider this to be the first Ghibli film. I don't know if you've noticed, but the producer is somebody that's written and directed a few other Ghibli films in the filmography, and also Hayao Miyazaki wrote the manga series that this film is based on. So this is sort of the spiritual predecessor to Castle in the Sky, ergo the rest of Studio Ghibli. The story follows a young princess who loves nature, Nausicaä, who protects the Valley of the Wind, one of the last hospitable places on Earth after war has destroyed most of the world and the toxic jungle encroaches on the last of the livable areas. When she is pushed into the middle of a brewing conflict, she must fight to bring peace to the nations, gearing up for war and protect what's left of the nature on Earth. When you compare this movie to the rest of the lineup from Studio Ghibli, it makes sense that this belongs in this tier list. There is so much to it that feels like a Studio Ghibli movie, and you can tell just from all of the themes that they are working on that this is what Studio Ghibli is meant to be. There's so much of the groundwork for Miyazaki's interests in this film, such as the flying and the animals, and this is truly an anti-war piece about protecting nature and coexisting with nature in a way that Princess Mononoke and Pom Poko and My Neighbor Totoro have. I honestly really liked this film. Like I mentioned before, I'm into fantasy and sci-fi, and this kind of crosses more into sci-fi territory. I loved it so much. It is beautiful, and you can definitely feel the heart of Ghibli in this film, and that's why it truly belongs here. I would say this definitely belongs in A tier. It sets the groundwork for the future Ghibli films you see and just has a well thought out story. The execution could be a little bit better, but again, this is a passion project and you can tell just from watching this film. So it belongs right here in A tier. And so that completes my Ghibli ranking. If you have any thoughts, feel free to comment them. Actually, I would love to know what your first Ghibli film was, because I feel like mine was kind of weird. I want to know if someone has a weird first Ghibli film too, so let me know. I just want to say I appreciate you watching to the end. It really means the world to me, and this was a project that I wanted to work on for a really long time, and I'm hoping that I can start actually making more projects like this. I know I'm gonna try to make this really short because I don't want this outro to be super long-winded, but my final thoughts are, if you have never watched a Ghibli film, start with A tier, and then move on to S tier, and then move on to the other tiers. You can watch the one D tier movie that I shall not name if you would like, but maybe watch it after you've watched all of the other films, or you know what, watch it before you watch an S tier film, and maybe it'll make the S tier film even better. But with that being out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and have a good rest of your day.